Hello and welcome back to NEET Pro. Today we'll be doing our chapter environmental issues. Human population. Human population size has grown enormously over the last 100 years. This means increase in demand for food, water, home, electricity, roads, automobiles, and numerous other commodities. These demands are exerting tremendous pressure on our natural resources, and they are also contributing to the pollution of air, water, and soil. So, human population has grown in size enormously over the last 100 years, and because of this the demand for food, water, automobile, electricity, roads, and many other commodities which are essential for a person, they have all increased tenfold, and these demands are exerting tremendous pressure on our natural resources, and they are also contributing to pollution of air, water, and soil. The need of the hour is to check The need of the hour is to check the degradation and depletion of our precious natural resources and pollution without halting the process of development. So, without halting the process of development, we need to check our precious natural resources and pollution. What is pollution? Pollution is any undesirable change in physical, chemical, or biological characteristics of air, land, water, and soil. So, any undesirable change which has come in the physical, chemical, or biological characteristic of air, water, land, and soil is called as pollution. Agents that bring about such undesirable change are called as pollutants. So the agents which bring about that such an undesirable change are called as pollutants. In order to control environmental pollution, the Government of India passed the Environment Protection Act in 1986. Environment Protection Act in 1986 to protect and improve the quality of our environment, that is air, water, and soil. Environment Protection Act in 1986. Air pollution and its control. We are dependent on air for our respiratory needs. Air pollutants cause injury to all living organisms. They reduce the growth and yield of crops, and they cause premature death of plants. They also deleteriously affect the respiratory system of humans and animals. Harmful effects depend on concentration of pollutants, duration of exposure, and the organism. So, firstly, air pollution, that is, we are dependent on air for our respiratory needs. Air pollutants cause injury to all living organisms. They reduce the growth and yield of crops. So the yield as well as the growth decreases, and they also cause premature death in plants. They also deleteriously affect the respiratory system of humans and animals. And the harmful effects of air pollution, it basically depends on the concentration of pollutant, duration of exposure, for how long we were exposed to that particular pollutant, and the organism, what kind of organism is getting exposed. Smokestacks of thermal power plants, smelters, and other industries release particulate and gaseous air pollutants together with harmless gases such as nitrogen, oxygen, etc. These pollutants must be separated or filtered out before releasing the harmless gases into the atmosphere. So, in thermal power plants, smokestacks are there, smelters, and of coal and all, and mining, those smelters and other industries, they release particulate matter and gaseous air pollutants along with your harmless gases such as nitrogen, oxygen, etc. So these pollutants must be separated or filtered out before releasing harmless gas into the atmosphere. So there are several ways of removing particulate matter. The most widely used is electrostatic precipitator, in which one can remove 99% particulate matter present in the exhaust from a thermal power plant. It has electrode wires that are maintained at several thousand volts, which produce a corona that releases electrons. These electrons attach to dust particles, giving them a negative charge. The collecting plates are grounded and attract the charged dust particles. The velocity of air between the plates must be low enough to allow the dust to fall. A scrubber can remove gases like sulfur dioxide. In a scrubber, exhaust is passed through a spray of water or lime. Okay, so firstly, electrostatic precipitator. In electrostatic precipitator, the dirty air is passed through, having particulate matter and all. The electrodes are charged, and electrode wires which are maintained at several thousand volts. These electrode charged wires, that is negatively charged wires, they uh, produce corona that releases electrons, and these electrons attach to the dust particles and give them a negative charge. Attach to the dust particles and give them a negative charge, and then these dust particles, they are these are the collecting plates, and in these collecting plates these dust particles are then grounded, and they attract the charged dust particle, and the velocity of the air between these plates should be very slow, so that the charged dust particles, they can fall and then they can get attracted to the and grounded to the collection plates. So this is what happens in a thermal power plant. Now scrubber can remove gases like sulfur dioxide. In a scrubber, the exhaust is passed through a spray of water or lime. So in scrubber, the dirty air is passed through and water or lime is sprayed, and we get clean air. That is, sulfur dioxide is removed. Recently, we have realized the dangers of particulate matter that are very small, and so the particulate matter are very small, and they are not removed by these precipitators. According to Central Pollution Control Board (CPCB), particulate size 2.5 micrometers or less in diameter are responsible for causing greatest harm to human health. These fine particles can be inhaled deep into the lungs, and they can cause breathing and respiratory symptoms, irritation, inflammation, damage to the lungs, and premature death. Automobiles are a major cause for atmospheric pollution, at least in the metro cities. As the number of vehicles increase on the street, this problem is now sitting to the other cities too. Proper maintenance of automobiles along with the use of lead-free petrol or diesel can reduce the pollutants that they emit. If we use lead-free petrol or diesel, then we can reduce anti-knocking basically, then we can reduce the pollutants they emit. Catalytic earlier lead that is lead petrol or diesel used to have knocking and all. Catalytic converters having expensive metals, namely platinum, palladium and rhodium, act as catalysts, and they are fitted into automobiles for reducing emission of poisonous gases. Catalytic converters have expensive metals, namely platinum, palladium and rhodium as catalysts, and they are fitted into the automobiles for reducing emission of poisonous gases. As the exhaust passes through the catalytic converter, unburnt hydrocarbons are converted into carbon dioxide and water. What happens in a catalytic converter? As the exhaust passes through the catalytic converter, the unburnt hydrocarbons are converted into carbon dioxide and water, and carbon monoxide and nitric oxide are changed to carbon dioxide and nitrogen gas, respectively. Motor vehicles equipped with catalytic converter should use unleaded petrol, because lead in petrol inactivates the catalyst. So if we have a catalytic converter that is having catalyst which can basically reduce the emission of poisonous gases, still it will not work if we have leaded petrol, because lead in the petrol inactivates the catalyst. In India, air, that is Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, came in 1981. So Environment Pollution Act, it came in 1986. Sorry, Environment Protection Act, it came at 1986. Air Prevention and Control of Pollution, so Air Pollution Act, it came into force in 1981, but it was amended in 1987 to include noise as an air pollutant. So in 1981 it was there, but in 1987 it got amended to include noise as an air pollutant. Noise is undesired high level of sound. We have got used to associating loud sounds with pleasure and entertainment, not realizing that noise causes psychological and physiological disorders in humans. So noise causes psychological and physiological disorders in humans. The bigger the city, the bigger the function, the greater is the noise. A brief exposure to extremely high sound level 150 decibel or more generated by takeoff of a jet plane or rocket may damage eardrums, thus permanently impairing hearing ability. Even chronic exposure to a relatively lower noise level of cities may permanently damage hearing abilities of humans. Noise can also cause sleeplessness, increased heartbeat, altered breathing pattern, thus considerably stressing humans. Considering the many dangerous effects of noise pollution, can you identify unnecessary sources of noise pollution? Reduction of noise in our industries can be effected by use of sound absorbent materials or by muffling noise. Stringent following of laws laid down in relation to noise, like delimitation of horn-free zones around hospitals and school, permissible sound levels of crackers and out of loudspeaker at timing after which loudspeakers cannot be played, need to be enforced to protect ourselves from noise pollution. Controlling vehicular air pollution, a case study of Delhi. With its very large population of vehicular traffic, Delhi leads the country in its level of air pollution. The highest level of pollution is in Delhi, no doubt. Yes, it has more cars than the states of Gujarat and West Bengal put together. In 1990, Delhi ranked up fourth among the 41 most polluted cities in the world. Air pollution problems in Delhi became so serious that a public interest litigation (PIL) was filed in the Supreme Court of India after being censored very strongly by Supreme Court. Under its directives, the government was asked to take within a specified time period appropriate measures, including switching over the entire fleet of public transport, that is buses, etc., auto, etc., from diesel to CNG. All the buses of Delhi were converted to run on CNG by the end of 2002. You may ask why CNG is better than diesel. The answer is that firstly, CNG burns more efficiently, unlike petrol or diesel in the automobiles, and very little of it is left unburned. Moreover, CNG is cheaper than petrol or diesel, cannot be siphoned off by thieves, and adulterated like petrol or diesel. The main problem with switching over to CNG is the difficulty of laying down pipelines to deliver CNG through distribution points and pumps and ensuring uninterrupted supply. Simultaneously, parallel steps taken in Delhi for reducing vehicular pollution include phasing out of old vehicles, use of unleaded petrol, use of low sulfur petrol and diesel, use of catalytic converters in vehicles, application of stringent pollution level norms for vehicles, etc. The Government of India, through a new auto fuel policy, has laid out a roadmap to cut down vehicular pollution in Indian cities. Auto fuel policy. More stringent norms for fuels mean steadily reducing the sulfur and aromatic content in petrol and diesel fuels. Euro 3 norms, for example, stipulate that sulfur be controlled at 350 parts per million in diesel and 150 parts per million in petrol. Aromatic hydrocarbons are to be contained at 42% of the concentrated fuel. Goal, according to the roadmap, is to reduce sulfur to 50 parts per million in petrol and diesel and bring down the level to 35%. Corresponding to the fuel, vehicle engines will also need to be upgraded. Mass emission standards, Bharat Stage 2, which is equivalent to Euro 2 norms, are no more applicable in any of the cities of India. Four-wheelers, Bharat Stage 4 throughout the country since April 2017. Three-wheelers throughout the country since 1st April 2017. Two-wheelers, Bharat Stage 4 throughout the country since April 2017. Thanks to the efforts made, air quality of Delhi has significantly improved. According to estimate, a substantial fall in CO2 and SO2 has been found in Delhi between 1997 and 2005. So pollution is any undesirable change which comes in the physical, chemical or biological characteristics of air, land, water and soil. Then the agents which bring about such undesirable change or pollution are called as pollutants. In order to control the environmental pollution, Government of India passed the Environment Protection Act in 1986. Um, Air pollution, that is due to air pollution, the crops, it has effect on all, harmful effect on all living organisms, that is the crops do not grow, reduces the growth, then also the yield, premature death of plants, harmful effects to the respiratory system of humans and animals. These harmful effects depend on the concentration of the pollutant, then duration of exposure of the pollutant to the and the organism. Smokestacks of thermal power plants, smelter and other industries, they release particulate matter and gases, gaseous air pollutants other than harmless gases such as nitrogen and oxygen. Um, these pollutants have to be separated or filtered out before releasing these harmless gases into the atmosphere. So, several ways of removing particulate matter. First is electrostatic precipitator, and second is the scrubber. So, in electrostatic precipitator, firstly, the gas containing harmless gas as well as gaseous pollutant as well as particulate matter, it is passed. And this electrostatic precipitator, it can remove 99% particulate matter present in the exhaust from a thermal power plant. So it has electrode wires which are maintained at several thousand volts. They produce a corona which releases electrons. These electrons, they go and bind to the dirt particles or particulate matter and they form negatively charged ions, and these negatively charged ions they are then grounded by the collection plates. Net negative charge are grounded to attract the charged dust particles. So the velocity of air between the plates should be low enough so that the dust particles can fall and settle down. So this is basically how an electrostatic precipitator works. A scrubber can remove gases like sulfur dioxide. In a scrubber, the exhaust is passed through a spray of water and lime. So what happens in scrubber, that is, so in an electrostatic precipitator, we can remove all your particulate matter. Then after removing particulate matter, still we will be having harmful gases like sulfur dioxide. So in that case, in a scrubber, that is, we can remove gases like sulfur dioxide by spraying, but so that the exhaust is passed through a spray of water and lime. Now we know the dangers of particulate matter. So Central Pollution Control Board, that is CPCB, it said that particle size of 2.5 micrometers or less in diameter is responsible for causing greatest harm to us. These are very fine, very small particles, and if inhaled, they go deep into our lungs, cause bleeding, respiratory system irritation, inflammation, damage to lungs, and also premature death. Major cause of atmospheric pollution are automobiles. They increase as people increase and more cities and more development takes place. Proper maintenance of automobiles as by using lead-free petrol, it can reduce the pollutants that they emit. Then catalytic converters. What are catalytic converters? They basically reduce the emission of poisonous gases. They have expensive metals, namely platinum, palladium, and rhodium as catalysts, which are fitted into the automobiles. As the exhaust passes through the catalytic converter, the unburnt hydrocarbon are converted into carbon dioxide and water, and your carbon monoxide and nitric oxide, they are both changed into carbon dioxide and nitrogen gas. So but catalytic converters, whenever they are equipped in motor vehicles, they should always be equipped along with lead-free petrol, because lead present in petrol, it renders it stops or inhibits the reaction, that is, it inactivates the catalyst. Then your air prevention and air prevention and control of pollution act was um, stated or came into force in 1981, but it was later amended in 1987 to include Noise pollution. Noise, what is noise? It is an undesired high level of sound, and a brief exposure to extremely high level of sound that is above 150 decibels. It can, which is generated by takeoff of a jet plane or rocket. It can damage our eardrums, and it can permanently affect or impair our hearing ability. Even chronic exposure to a relatively lower noise level, it can damage hearing. It can also cause sleeplessness, that is increased heartbeat, altered breathing pattern, and it can stress humans. Therefore, we need to have sound absorbent surfaces and all, which are there in your movies, cinemas, and everything. Horn-free zones in, especially in hospitals and schools. Sound level of crackers should be low. So loudspeakers also should not always be at such a high sound, and there should be particular timings after which you cannot play, loudspeakers cannot be played. All these rules need to be enforced to protect ourselves from noise pollution. In Delhi, that is, Delhi was ranked in 2000, in 1990s as 41 most polluted cities in the world. Its air pollution, that is the number of automobiles at that time in Delhi, were more than West Bengal and state of West Bengal and Gujarat combined, and the air pollution was very high. Because of this, a public interest litigation was filed in Supreme Court, and under the action of Supreme Court within a limited period of time, the government asked to take appropriate measures, including switching, so the entire public transport, buses, autos, etc., they all switched from diesel to CNG, compressed natural gas, and all buses in Delhi were converted to run on CNG by the end of 2002. Why? Because CNG firstly is burns more efficiently, unlike petrol or diesel, and very little of CNG is left unburnt. Then CNG is cheaper than petrol or diesel. It cannot be siphoned off by thieves, and it cannot be adulterated like petrol or diesel. Main problem is laying pipelines to deliver CNG to distribution points without any interruption. Simultaneous parallel steps taken in Delhi for reducing vehicular pollution include phasing out old vehicles, then using unleaded petrol, using low sulfur petrol and diesel, using catalytic converters, and application of stringent pollution level norms for vehicles. The government of India, through a new auto fuel policy, laid out a roadmap to cut down vehicular pollution. More stringent norms of fuels means steadily reducing the sulfur and the aromatic content in petrol and diesel fuels. So first came the Euro 3 norms. Euro 3 norms, for example, stipulate that sulfur has to be controlled at 350 parts per million in your diesel and 150 parts per million in petrol. This was what Euro 3 said. Then aromatic hydrocarbons are to be contained at 42% of the concerned fuel. The goal, according to roadmap, is to reduce sulfur as well as sulfur in petrol as well as diesel to 50 parts per million, and bring down the total percentage um, to 35%, that is of aromatic hydrocarbons to 35%. Corresponding to the fuel, vehicle engines will also need to be upgraded. Mass emission standards, Bharat stage 2, which is equivalent to Euro 2 norms. So Bharat stage 2, it was equivalent to Euro 2 norms. That is, it also said that you have to reduce it, that is sulfur content in petrol and diesel, and aromatic hydrocarbons also are no more applicable in any of the cities in India. So Bharat stage 2 are no more applicable in any cities of India. And Bharat stage 4, which was for 4-wheelers, Bharat stage 4 for 3-wheelers, and Bharat stage 4 for 2-wheelers, they all were implemented, that is, they are all implemented since April 2017. Only 3-wheeler one is since 1st April 2017. Because of this, there was substantial fall in the Delhi pollution in CO2 and SO2, 1997 and 2005. Water pollution and its control. Human beings have been abusing water bodies around the world by disposing into them all kinds of waste. We tend to believe that water can wash away everything and not taking cognizance of the fact that water bodies are our lifeline as well as that of other living organisms. We try to put your flowers, then even a lot of things, basically your trash. Then due to such activities of humankind, ponds, lakes, streams, river, estuaries, oceans are becoming polluted in several parts of the world. Realizing the importance of maintaining the cleanliness of water bodies, Government of India has passed the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act in 1974. So 1986 Environment, 1987 Amendment to include noise pollution, and 1981 Air, and 1974 Water. Okay. So 1986, then 1981, so also 1987, and this is 1974. Domestic sewage and industrial effluents. As we work with water in our homes, in the cities and towns, we wash everything into drains. Have you ever wondered where the sewage that comes out of our villages go? How houses go? What happens in villages? Is the sewage treated before being done nearest? A mere 0.1% of the impurities make domestic sewage unfit for human use. This is very important. A mere 0.1% impurities make domestic sewage unfit for human use. So we have read about sewage treatment plants. Solids are relatively easy to remove. What is most difficult is to remove the dissolved salts such as nitrates, phosphates and other nutrients, and toxic metal ions and organic compounds. Domestic sewage primarily contains biodegradable organic matter which readily decomposes thanks to bacteria and other microorganisms which can multiply using these organic substances as substrates and hence utilize some of the components of sewage. It is possible to estimate the amount of biodegradable organic matter in sewage water by measuring the BOD, biochemical oxygen demand. Impurities, suspended solids, example sand, silt and clay. Colloidal material, example fecal matter, bacteria, cloth and paper fibers. And dissolved materials, example nutrients, nitrate, ammonia, phosphate, sodium and calcium. So these are the impurities. Fish kill and disappearance of clean water. The appearance of clean water. Okay. In the chapter on microorganism, the relation between BOD, microorganism, amount of biodegradable matter. It shows some of the changes that one may notice. Discharge sewage into river. Microorganism involved in biodegradation of organic matter in the receiving water body consume a lot of oxygen. As a result, there is a sharp decline in dissolved oxygen downstream from the point of sewage discharge. This causes mortality of fish and other aquatic creatures. Okay, so here the biochemical oxygen demand is very high in your sewage. That means the more is the BOD, the more is the sewage polluted, right? More is the pollution. So here it is very much. Then it as it flows and flows and flows, that is all those organisms which consume that is take up oxygen. So the microorganism, because of that, your BOD, biochemical oxygen demand, it becomes lesser and lesser and lesser. And therefore over here again your organism, they start surviving, because the BOD, biochemical oxygen demand of your sewage is less, very less. So now the pollution is less, therefore dissolved oxygen is more. In this case dissolved oxygen becomes very less because of the sewage, that is because here BOD is very high. So fish kill and disappearance of clean water organisms. So basically lot of the organism in this region, they die. This causes mortality of fish and other aquatic creatures. Presence of large amount of nutrients in water also causes excessive growth of planktonic free-floating algae called algal bloom, which impart a distinct color to the water bodies. Algal blooms cause deterioration of the water quality and fish mortality. Some bloom-forming algae are extremely toxic to human beings and animals. You may have seen the beautiful mauve-colored flowers found very appealing, appealingly shaped floating plants in water bodies. These plants, which were introduced into India for their lovely flowers, have caused havoc by excessive growth, by causing blocks in our waterways. They grow faster than our ability to remove them. These are the plants of water hyacinth, which is also called as terror of Bengal, and Echinoria crassipus, scientific name. The world's most problematic aquatic weed, also called terror of Bengal. They grow abundantly in eutrophic water bodies and lead to an imbalance in the ecosystem dynamics of the water body. That is, they consume all the dissolved oxygen, and because of them all the fishes die. Now sewage from our homes as well as from hospitals are likely to contain many undesirable pathogen microorganisms, and its disposal into water without proper treatment may cause outbreak of serious diseases such as dysentery, typhoid, jaundice, cholera, etc. Unlike domestic sewage, wastewater from industries like petroleum, paper manufacturing, metal extraction, and processing, chemical manufacturing, etc. often contain toxic substances, notably heavy metals defined as elements with density greater than 5 gram per centimeter cube, such as mercury, cadmium, copper, lead, etc. and variety of organic compounds. Heavy metals. What are heavy metals? Heavy metals are defined as elements with greater than 5 gram per centimeter cube density. For example, mercury, cadmium, copper, lead, etc. and a variety of organic compounds. A few toxic substances often present in industrial wastewaters can undergo biological magnification or biomagnification in the aquatic food chain. Biomagnification refers to increase in concentration of the toxicant at successive trophic levels. This happens because the toxic substance accumulated by an organism cannot be metabolized or excreted, and it is thus passed on to the next higher trophic level. The phenomenon is well known for mercury and DDT. It shows biomagnification of DDT in an aquatic food chain. In this manner, the concentration of DDT is increased at successive trophic levels. Say if it starts at 0.003 ppb parts per billion in water, it can ultimately reach 25 parts per million in fish-eating birds through biomagnification. High concentration of DDT disturb calcium metabolism in birds, which causes thinning of eggshell and premature breaking, eventually causing decline in bird populations. So a few toxic substances often present in industrial wastewater, they can undergo biological magnification, also called as biomagnification, in the aquatic food chain. What happens in biomagnification or biological magnification? That is, it refers to the increase in concentration of the toxicant at successive trophic levels. So when the same toxicant, its concentration increases at successive trophic levels, then it is called as biomagnification. This happens because a toxic substance accumulated by an organism, it cannot be metabolized or excreted, and it is thus passed on to the next higher trophic level. This phenomenon is well known for mercury and DDT. So it shows biomagnification of DDT in an aquatic food chain over here. In this manner, the concentration of DDT increases at successive trophic levels. Say if it starts at 0.003 parts per billion. So if at 0.003 parts per billion in water, the mercury and DDT is there, then it can ultimately reach 25 parts per million in fish-eating birds through biomagnification. High concentration of DDT disturbs calcium metabolism in birds, and because of this disturbance of calcium metabolism in birds, it causes thinning of eggshell and premature breaking, eventually causing a decline in the bird population. So here is an example, that is water having DDT 0.03 parts per billion, then zooplankton, that is when they consume this water and they are not able to metabolize the waste, then biomagnification takes place and 0.04 parts per million. Then small fish, the DDT is 0.5 parts per million. So from 0.003 parts per billion, 0.04 parts per million, then 0.5 parts per million, then large fish is 2 parts per million, and fish eating birds is 25 parts per million. So water is 0.03 parts per billion, which is consumed by zooplankton. It becomes 0.04 parts per million. Zooplankton consumed by small fish, it becomes 0.5 parts per million. Small fish consumed by large fish, it becomes uh, 2 parts per million. And fish eating bird consuming fishes, it becomes 25 parts per million. Eutrophication is the natural aging of a lake by nutrient enrichment of its water. What is eutrophication? It is the natural aging of a lake by nutrient enrichment of its water. In a young lake, the water is cold and clear, supporting little life. With time, streams draining into the lake introduce nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, which encourage the growth of aquatic organisms. As the lake's fertility increases, plant and animal life burgeons, and organic remains begin to be deposited on the lake bottom. Over centuries, as silt and organic debris pile up, the lake grows shallower and warmer, with warm water organisms supplanting those that thrive in a cold water environment. Marsh plants take root in the shallows and begin to fill the original lake basin. Eventually, the lake gives way to large masses of floating plants or bog, finally converting into land. Depending on climate and size of the lake and other factors, the natural aging of a lake may span thousands of years. However, pollutants from man's activities like effluents from the industries and homes radically accelerate the aging process. This phenomenon has been called as cultural or accelerated eutrophication. During the past century, lakes in many parts of the earth have been severely eutrophied by sewage and agricultural and industrial waste. The prime contaminants are nitrates and phosphates, which act as plant nutrients. They overstimulate the growth of algae, causing unsightly scum and unpleasant odors. And robbing the water of dissolved oxygen vital to other aquatic life. At the same time, other pollutants flowing into the lake may poison whole population of fish, decomposing whose decomposing remains further deplete the water's dissolved oxygen content. In such a fashion, lake can literally choke to death. Heated thermal wastewaters flowing out of electricity generating unit, example thermal power plant, constitute another important category of pollutant. Thermal wastewater eliminates or reduces the number of organisms sensitive to high temperature and may enhance the growth of plants and fish in extremely cold areas, but only after causing damage to indigenous flora and fauna. A case of integrated wastewater treatment. Wastewater, including sewage, can be treated in an integrated manner by utilizing a mix of artificial and natural processes. An example of such an initiative is the town of Arcata, which is situated in the northern coast of California, collaborating with biologists from Humboldt State University. Arcata, situated along the coast of California, collaborating with biologists from Humboldt State University, the townspeople created an integrated wastewater treatment process within a natural system. The cleaning occurs in two stages. That is, the conventional sedimentation, filtering, and chlorine treatments are given. After this stage, lots of dangerous pollutants like dissolved heavy metals still remain. To combat this, an innovative approach was taken. Biologists developed a series of 6 connected marshes over 60 hectares of marshland. Appropriate plants, algae, and fungi and bacteria were seeded into this area, which neutralize and absorb and assimilate the pollutants. Hence, the water flows through the marshes. It gets purified naturally. So, in a town called Arcata, which is situated in the northern coast of California, collaborating with biologists from Humboldt State University, an integrated wastewater treatment um, uh, process was developed within a natural system. So, in two steps, the cleaning occurred. First cleaning was your traditional or conventional sedimentation, then filtering, and then chlorine treatments and all. After this, lots of dangerous pollutants like heavy metals still remain. So, to combat this, an innovative approach was taken. The biologists developed a series of 6 connected marshes over 60 hectares of marshland. Appropriate plants, algae, and fungi and bacteria were seeded into this area, which neutralize and absorb and assimilate the pollutants. Hence, the water flows through the marshes, it gets purified naturally. The marshes also constitute a sanctuary with a high level of biodiversity in the form of fishes, animals, and birds that now reside there. A citizens group called Friends of the Arcata Marsh Foam are responsible for the upkeep and safeguarding of this wonderful project. So the marshes also constitute a sanctuary with a high level of biodiversity in the form of fishes, animals, and birds which now reside there. A citizens group which is called as Friends of the Arcata Marsh, that is FOAM, Foam, are responsible for the upkeep and safeguarding of this wonderful project. All this time we have assumed that removal of waste requires water, that is the creation of sewage. But what if water is not necessary to dispose of human waste like excreta? Ecological sanitation is a sustainable system for handling human excreta using dry composting toilet. This is practical, hygienic, efficient, and cost-effective solution to human waste disposal. The key point to note here is that with this composting method, human excreta can be recycled into a resource such as natural fertilizer, which reduces the need for chemical fertilizer. They are working on eco-sand toilets in many areas in Kerala and Sri Lanka. Solid waste. Solid waste refer to everything that goes out in trash. Municipal solid waste are waste from home, offices, stores, school, hospital, etc., which are collected and disposed of by the municipality. The municipal solid waste generally comprise of paper, food waste, plastic, glass, metal, rubber, leather, textile, etc. Burning reduces the volume of the waste, although it is generally not burned to completion, and open dumps often serve as the breeding ground for rats and flies. Sanitary landfills were adopted as a substitute for open burning dumps. In sanitary landfill, waste are dumped in a depression or trench after compaction and covered with dirt every day. Landfills are not really much of a solution since amount of garbage generation, especially in the metros, has increased so much that these sites are getting filled too. Also, there is a danger of seeping of chemicals, etc., polluting the underground water resources. A solution to all this can be in human beings becoming more sensitive to these environmental issues. All the waste that we generate is categorized into 3 types: biodegradable, recyclable, and non-biodegradable. It is important that all garbage generated is sorted. What can be reused or recycled should be separated out. Our kabadi walas and rag pickers do a great job of separation of materials for recycling. The biodegradable materials can be put into deep pits in the ground and be left for natural breakdown. And that leaves only the non-biodegradable to be disposed of. The need to reduce our garbage generation should be a prime goal. Instead, we are increasing the use of non-biodegradable products every day. Just pick any ready-made packet of any good quality eatable, say a biscuit packet, and study the packaging. Do you see the number of protective layers used? Note that at least one layer is of plastic. We started packaging even our daily use products like milk and water in poly bags. In cities, fruits and vegetables can be bought by beautiful polystyrene and plastic packaging. We pay so much, and what do? Contribute heavily to the environmental pollution. State governments across the country are trying to push for reduction in the use of plastic and use of eco-friendly packaging. We can do our bit by carrying cloth or natural fiber carry bags when we go to shopping, and by refusing polythene bags. Hospitals generate hazardous waste that contain disinfectants and other harmful chemicals, and also pathogenic microorganisms. Such waste also require careful treatment and disposal. The use of incinerators is crucial to the disposal of hospital waste. Incinerators, basically burning it electrically. Irreparable computers and other electronic goods are known as electronic waste or e-waste. They are buried in landfills or again incinerated. Over half of the e-waste generated in the developed world are exported to developing countries, mainly China, India and Pakistan, where metals like copper, iron, silicon, nickel and gold are recovered during recycling process. Unlike developed countries which have specially built facilities for recycling e-waste, recycling in developing countries often involves manual participation, thus exposing workers to toxic substances present in e-waste. Recycling is the only solution for the treatment of e-waste, provided it is carried out in an environment friendly manner. A case study of remedy for plastic waste. So, plastic sack manufacturer in Bangalore has managed to find an ideal solution to an ever-increasing problem in accumulating plastic waste. Ahmed Khan, 57 years, has been producing plastic sacks for 20 years. He realized plastic waste was a real problem. Poly Blend, a fine powder of recycled modified plastic, was developed then by his company. A mixture of this mixed with bitumen that is used to lay roads. In collaboration with RV College of Engineering and Bangalore City Corporation, Ahmed Khan proved that blends of polyblend and bitumen, when used to lay roads, enhance the bitumen's water repellent properties and help to increase the road life by a factor of 3. The raw material for creating polyblend is any plastic film waste. So against the price of rupees 0.40 per kg that rag pickers had been getting for plastic waste, Khan now offers 6. Using Khan's technique, by year 2002, more than 40 kilometers of road in Bangalore has already been laid. At this rate, Khan will soon be running short of plastic waste to Bangalore to produce polyblend. Thanks to innovations like polyblend, we might still avoid being smothered by plastic waste. Agrochemicals and their effect. In the wake of green revolution, use of inorganic fertilizers and pesticides has increased in manifold. For enhancing crop production, pesticide, herbicide, fungicide are increasingly being used. They are also toxic to non-target organism. We know, addition to increasing amounts of chemical fertilizers, eutrophication. The current problem in agriculture extremely grave. Integrated organic farming is a cyclical zero waste procedure where waste products from one process are recycled in as nutrients for other process. This allows the maximum utilization of resource and increases the efficiency of production. Ramesh Chandra Dagar, a farmer in Sonipat, Haryana, is doing just this. He includes beekeeping, dairy management, water harvesting, composting and agriculture in a chain of processes which supports each other and allows an extremely economical and sustainable venture. There is no need to use chemical fertilizer for crop, as cattle or excreta dung are used as manure. Crop waste is used to create compost, which can be used as a natural fertilizer or can be used to generate natural gas for satisfying the energy needs of the farm. Enthusiastic about spreading information and help on the practice of integrated organic farming, Dagar has created Haryana Kisan Welfare Club with a current membership of 5,000 farmers. Radioactive waste. Later on, it was realized that use of nuclear energy has two very serious inherent problems. The first is accidental leakage, which occurred in 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl incidents.